So first up, we have Brian De Palma's Carrie from 1976. I think this is the third time I've seen this movie. Ugh, I absolutely love it. It's an adaptation of Stephen King's first novel, which, fun fact, King almost didn't publish. He thought it wasn't good enough apparently, but his wife Tabitha saved it from the trash, and I am forever grateful because this book is great. And without Tabitha, we wouldn't have this absolute gem of a movie. It was a stepping off point for so many stars. It was the film debuts of Sissy Spacek, John Travolta, Amy Irving, and Edie McClurg. It's got theater veterans Betty Buckley and Priscilla Pointner, and it's got Hollywood icon Piper Laurie, who is absolutely flawless in this role. She should have won the Oscar. Every time she's on screen, it is just perfect. It's also got Nancy Allen from RoboCop, Michael Talbot from Miami Vice, PJ Soles from Halloween, William Catt from The Greatest American Hero. Pretty much everybody in this film went on to better things, which is just wonderful to see. I could go on forever gushing about the amazing 70s hair and prom fashions. They are simply fabulous. Pretty much every prom dress in this movie I want in my closet yesterday. And speaking of the prom, of course we have to talk about the infamous prom scene. Now, while I feel like the choice of a split screen is iconic, and it makes the whole scene all the more chaotic, I do wish the scene had gone on a bit longer, but I'm a sadist, so take that as you will. Also, can we talk about that couch? Ugh, love it. There is a jump scare at the very end, but overall it isn't really a scary movie, unless religion scares you, which, why wouldn't it? More of a cautionary tale about bullying. It's a classic. You should definitely watch it. Next up is Dog Day Afternoon from 1975, directed by Sidney Lumet. It was a big Oscar darling that year. It's based on a true story of a bank robbery that happened in New York in the 70s. Al Pacino and his friend decide to rob a bank in order to fund Pacino's boyfriend's sex change, which is, like, honestly, the most romantic thing I've ever heard. Side note, the transgender girlfriend was able to get the sex change in real life, thanks in part to the money that was made from this movie, which makes me very happy. But she did divorce the bank robber, and she did die of AIDS 12 years later, which makes me very sad. Why can't trans people have happy endings? Ugh. It was nominated for Best Picture, was nominated for Best Director, Best Actor for Pacino, and it also got a Best Supporting Actor for Chris Sarandon, who, despite not being in the film very much, left quite the impact as the transgender girlfriend. The movie is very well written. It's a drama, but it's got comedic parts at times, and I especially love the interactions between the two robbers and the bank employees. I really enjoy how, like, by the end of the movie, all the bank employees are rooting for Al Pacino and John Cazale, along with, like, the entire city of New York, pretty much. Hell, I think in the end, even Sergeant Charles Durning is sort of on Pacino's side. In conclusion, be gay and do crime. A Taste for Killing is a 1992 TV movie. I don't know how I ended up acquiring this movie, but for some reason I had the VHS, so I decided to give it a watch. And it's okay. It's got a young Jason Bateman and Henry Thomas. They play these two rich kids who go to work on an oil rig for some reason, and there they meet and befriend a psychopathic killer played by Michael Biehn, who blackmails them and makes their lives hell for a couple weeks. For a TV movie, it's not that bad. I know TV movies get a bad rap, and as someone who has seen a lot of old TV movies, I can attest that there is a grain of truth to this. But as far as TV movies go, this one's pretty good. It's well acted, there's good suspense, and it has a hell of a climax. It also has a really cute romance to boot. If you can find it, give it a go. So Evil Under the Sun is one of my favorite Agatha Christie books, and in the 1982 adaptation, it's about as close as you can get to perfection. It's really hard to mess up an Agatha Christie book. I don't think I've ever seen an Agatha Christie movie I didn't like, and this one's no exception. Peter Ustinov reprises his role as the famed Belgian detective Hercule Poirot, and it's got the usual ensemble cast, including Maggie Smith, James Mason, Roddy McDowall, Jane Birkin, Diana Rigg, and Sylvia Miles, who are all wonderful in their roles. It's always a treat seeing a group of high-caliber performers like this working off each other. The costumes are absolutely divine. Anthony Powell really outdid himself, and it's beautifully shot as well. Really makes me want to take a vacation. If you were to only watch one Agatha Christie movie, I'd recommend this one. Flashdance was fine. I don't know why a teenage girl is working in a steel mill, but whatever, it was the 80s. I know it was a big deal back when it came out. It was the third highest grossing film of 1983, and the soundtrack is one of the best of the 80s, if not of all time. I like the relationships between the characters, and as an aspiring entertainer myself, I do sympathize with Jennifer Beals' imposter syndrome. Boy, is that real. But all in all, I gotta be honest, I was expecting more. It's not terrible by any means, and I may watch it again someday, but I do understand why the soundtrack has eclipsed the film. However, those musical numbers are something to behold. I'd recommend the movie just for the dance sequences. That is true MTV quality shit. So I came into The Big Easy not expecting much, and I ended up completely blown away. The film is about a New Orleans police detective played by Dennis Quaid, whose nonchalance toward his job and the law makes him the perfect foil to no-nonsense DA Ellen Barkin, as they both try and solve a series of gang-related murders. The screenwriting is second to none, and the chemistry between Dennis Quaid and Ellen Barkin is lightning in a bottle. Quaid is so sexy, I just cannot. I don't know how accurate his accent is, and I don't really care. He is so gorgeous. He can talk to me in that accent. He can talk to me whatever accent he wants. I just love that man. John Goodman and Ned Beatty are also in this movie, and they are great as always. It's got a really interesting soundtrack filled with a lot of Cajun-style music. Also, gay icon Charles Ludlam is in this movie. He plays a slick, slimy, good old southern lawyer, and he milks every scene that he is in. Also, shout out to Mama's court outfit. Perfection, I have no notes. The ending scene seemed a little out of left field, but other than that, this movie is a must-see. Gaslight from 1944 is exactly what I expected it to be. It's one of those movies whose plot you can summarize without ever having to watch it. The title's become a verb. Its plot has become pop culture. It's a trope at this point. Meanwhile, the film itself remains unwatched. It's the whole syndrome of, why should I watch this movie? I already know what happens. Which I think is really unfair and a shame because this movie is great. You know the plot. Ingrid Bergman is slowly being driven crazy by her gold-digging husband Charles Boyer and his menacing eyebrows. Ingrid Bergman is wonderful as always, but the breakout star of this movie is Charles Boyer. This man does not get his flowers. He is superb in this. He doesn't even have to say a word. His eyebrows talk for him. He should have won the Oscar. Bing Crosby got lucky. Angela Lansbury is also in this film. This is her Hollywood debut. She's the slutty maid and she's great. She's got this Cockney accent. I love everything about it. No notes. The costumes are great. I love the house. It's Victorian splendor in spades, and all the beautiful furniture clutters up the shots, making you feel even more claustrophobic. And the ending scene when Ingrid Bergman gets her revenge, now that scene alone won her the Oscar that year, and I still think about it to this day. A Golden Age classic. You should definitely check it out. Okay, so Rebel Without a Cause left me really underwhelmed. First of all, the VHS I have of this film sucks major ass. Not quality-wise, the quality's fine. It's the formatting. It plays all the special features before the movie instead of after, most notably 2 behind-the-scenes featurettes featuring Gig Young that discuss the making of the film, and they go on forever, and they pretty much spoil the entire film. I felt like I saw the movie before it even started. It also included this interview with James Dean filmed just before he died in a car crash where he talks about the importance of safe driving.
Do you have any special advice for the young people who drive?
Take it easy driving. The life you might save might be mine.
Yikes. The script just isn't there for me. Maybe I've been too spoiled by modern teen coming-of-age movies, of which this film was one of the first, but for such a timeless problem as teen angst and intergenerational discord, this movie feels dated as hell, and not in a fun way either, like other juvenile delinquent movies of the era. I wish the movie spent more time with the relationship between Natalie Wood and James Dean. I wish the movie spent more time with Sal Mineo and James Dean and their whole queer-coded relationship. I wish the movie spent more time with James Dean's relationship to police officer Edward Platt, or with his parents for that matter. I wish this movie was a lot better. The operative word is character development. I wanted more of that. I didn't get any of that. This movie is beloved though, and I can't say how much of that is because the movie is actually great and I'm just blind, or if it's because it's James Dean's last movie. He is amazing in this film as he is in everything he did. I don't know. Watch it because it's a classic. Watch it for James Dean. He is such a hottie. Watch it because it's Dennis Hopper's first movie. Just watch it. But not this VHS version. It ain't it, Chief. Okay, next up is The Best Little Whorehouse in Texas from 1982. It's great, it's fantastic, it's wonderful, it's marvelous, it's perfect, I love every minute of it, I have no notes. Some of my favorite costumes I've seen this month. I love every single outfit. I want every single outfit. I need every single outfit. My favorite is the gray fringe dress she wears at the end when she sings I Will Always Love You, which I didn't realize was in this movie. Damn, this song has a history. It's a funny movie. Everyone in it is great. Burt Reynolds plays the sheriff of a small county in Texas who's having an affair with Dolly Parton, who plays the madam of a brothel called the Chicken Ranch, which has been a fixture of the town for a very long time. And all is well until Dom DeLuise comes along with his fake-ass hair and tries his darndest to shut the Chicken Ranch down. Jim Nabors does his Gomer Pyle shtick. Charles Durning is hilarious as the governor. Who knew he could sing and dance? The musical numbers are great. There's a whole musical sequence featuring the gayest football team I've ever seen. Everything's great. I highly recommend. Definitely check it out. So going in a bit of a different direction, I rewatched Wes Craven's directorial debut, The Last House on the Left from 1982. I knew this movie's reputation going into it. It's a rape and revenge film, possibly the most well-known rape and revenge film after I Spit on Your Grave. It was banned in the UK in 2002 as part of the whole video nasty craze, which if you don't know was when the British Conservatives got their knickers in a twist over dirty movies being more easily accessible due to the rise of VHS tapes. So they made a whole list, a new rating system, and as a result a lot of films got banned. And you thought the Hays Code was bad. Anyway, I have the VHS, and honestly, I think the low quality of the VHS really adds to the atmosphere of an already gritty looking movie. It was pretty good. I wasn't blown away. I can see where this movie was considered shocking to audiences back in 72, but I didn't find it very shocking. Not to devalue the film or anything, I think I've just seen a lot worse. It's definitely a case of modern desensitization to violence. That being said, it was still a good ride. I wasn't ever bored. Give it a watch, if you dare. I'm gonna be honest with you. I watched Dumb and Dumber really early in the month, and I don't remember a lot of it. I remember the poop scene. I remember Jim Carrey's hairdo. And I remember not finding it all that funny. It's very juvenile. There's poop humor and burps and farts, and two adults acting dumb. Oh yeah, wasn't there an owl or something too? I remember I liked Lauren Holly's hat. I miss hats. Bring back hats. Hats were fun. I don't know. I seem to be the odd one out on this one. Everyone loves this movie. I may need to give it another shot. I know people loved it, and maybe I'm just too stuffy and high class. I do love thinking about the other actors who were up for the leads. Like, could you imagine if this movie had Rob Lowe and Gary Oldman? No, I would pay money to see that. Girl. Also from 1994, I watched Ed Wood. Ed Wood is Tim Burton's best movie. Fight me. Okay, I may have gone a little overboard with that statement. I don't really think I can defend that. But this movie is one of his best. It tells the true story of Ed Wood, who's a failed film director and cross-dressing icon, known for making some of the worst films of all time. Definitely some of the worst films of the 50s, including Glenn or Glenda and Planet from Outer Space. Johnny Depp kills it in the role. He's so full of ambition and eternal optimism, and he really makes you root for Ed, even though you know how the story ends. It also just reminds me of how fun movie making can be. It's surprisingly uplifting to see how Ed deals with all of his failures. As someone who myself has lost the love after a few disastrous attempts at filmmaking, it's heartwarming to see this man try to live his dream, even though all the odds, including his own talent, are stacked against him. I also really love how this film looks like it too was an Ed Wood film. Like, it has the same simple sets and black backdrops that Ed Wood would use for all of his movies. It's inspired. Also, Martin Landau is uncanny as the late great Bela Lugosi, and of course anything that has to do with Vampira I am immediately in love with. Especially her funeral outfit with that black rice hat, iconic. One of the better biopics, cannot recommend enough. The Fan from 1981 is kind of a forgotten little thriller film. It bombed at the box office upon its release and no one really remembers it. Critics thought it was fine, a bit basic, but well enough acted, and I concur. Lauren Bacall can't sing a lick, but she's Lauren Bacall, so even the worst script she touches become gold. Michael Biehn is super hot as the crazy stalker. He works in a record store, which was my dream job in college. It's got an all-star cast. It's got James Garner, Maureen Stapleton, Hector Elizondo plays a cop as always. It's worth a watch. I love Lauren Bacall's apartment. A gay guy does get murdered. Don't like that. I think the low audience turnout could be attributed to the fact that this film had the bad luck of coming out in the midst of multiple high-profile assassinations and murders. Like, everybody got shot that year. Reagan got shot, the Pope got shot, John Lennon got shot, ironically enough by a Craig's former fan. And in a double dose of irony, he was shot outside the Dakota, which is where Lauren Bacall lived. I don't know, it's not the greatest movie you'll ever see, but if you're looking for a decent thriller, give it a watch. So Ghost Broke My Heart. It's one of the best romance movies I think I've ever seen. It might be one of my favorite movies of all time. It's just a perfect movie. Everybody is perfect in their roles, especially Whoopi Goldberg. She earned that Oscar. I love her outfits in this. I do hate Demi Moore's haircut, and I hated that Tony Goldwyn got sent to hell at the end. I have a huge crush on Tony Goldwyn. He reminds me of like an 80s Tom Holland. Ugh, what a waste. I also just love looking at the 80s computers. I want one. They're so bulky. Some of the special effects are super dated, but it doesn't matter. The heart is there. If you haven't seen this movie, do it right now. It was the highest grossing film of 1990 for a reason. So I watched 3 Disney movies this month. Mulan, Cinderella, and The Little Mermaid. I was going to watch Aladdin, but the tape broke, which is very me. I had seen Mulan and The Little Mermaid as a kid, and they were just as good as I remembered them. This is my first time watching Cinderella, though. I had seen the third one, but not the original, for reasons. Okay, I was an Anastasia fan, okay? I liked her hair. Bitch got cool hair. I'm not proud. Cinderella was fine. I wasn't as impressed with it as I was with the other two. That's not to say it's a bad movie, far from it. I loved the art design. It was like I was looking at paintings. Maybe I'm just too old for all the talking animals. The mice really annoyed me. I didn't expect them to have more screen time than Lady Tremaine. I think Mulan was my favorite of the 3. Little Mermaid had the better music, but I think Mulan had the better story. And Cinderella had the best villain. I know Ursula is iconic and fun and gay, and Shen Yu is pretty badass too, but Lady Tremaine is just classic. Cinderella definitely deserves its place in the Disney pantheon. I'm not sure I'll ever watch it again though. Maybe when I have kids. Next up is Alpha Dog from 2006. Damn, I watched a lot of true stories this month. Okay, so it's based on the real-life kidnapping and murder of Nicholas Markovitz in 2000. It's got Emile Hirsch, Sharon Stone, Bruce Willis, Justin Timberlake, Amanda Seyfried. They're all great in their roles. I love that Bruce Willis plays an asshole. It's directed by John Cassavetes' son, Nick Cassavetes. So basically, Emile Hirsch plays a teenage drug lord who is feuding with Ben Foster, who is a neo-Nazi, and he ends up kidnapping Anton Yelchin for collateral, and really Anton Yelchin is just having the time of his life. Justin Timberlake is homophobic, but he's hot, so I'll forgive him. The movie does a really good job establishing the characters and their relationships with one another, belying their youthful ignorance. They have money and power, but they're all too young to know how to properly use it and appreciate it, and they have practically no adult guidance or supervision, and they have way too much free time. It's all kind of a game to them, until it's not anymore. Highly recommend. In a similar vein, 2001's Bully from Larry Clark also deals with out-of-control, unsupervised teenagers who commit murder instead of going to school. And it is also based on a true story. And it's one of Larry Clark's better films, I think. Larry Clark likes to focus on teenagers and the lost youth of middle America, but unlike his more famous films like Kids and Ken Park, this movie is more of, well, a film, and less of a mockumentary. Bully actually has a plot, which is probably because instead of hiring Harmony Korine, who likes to write erratic, aimless slice-of-life experimental scripts, Larry hired David McKenna, who wrote American History X. But also because this is based on a real-life story, so there's already a built-in narrative. It's got the same listless, wanton, doomed teenage delinquents that all the other Larry Clark movies have, and it too is borderline exploitation, but somehow this movie seems a little less empty. My Best Friend's Wedding is one of the best rom-coms I've ever seen. Dermot Mulroney is so sexy I can't even believe it. In my version, he and Rupert Everett get together, but alas, 1997 was not yet ready for my version. One day. Maybe. Julia Roberts and her hair are amazing as always. The fact that you're rooting for her to destroy a genuinely cute and very much in love couple is a testament to her charms. This is one of Cameron Diaz's best performances ever. Best use of a Dionne Warwick song. Also best use of twins in a movie. The Shining, take notes. I really wanted more from Priscilla. I love Sofia Coppola, I'm a big fan, please put me in your movies. And I love Priscilla Presley. I've always loved her style, I loved her in Dallas, her fragrance Moments is one of the better celebrity scents, I think. I was never a big Elvis fan, I always thought he was cute and I liked his 70s tracksuits, but early rock and roll was never one of my favorite genres. My 50s music tastes are more on the adult side instead of with the youth, though I do love me some doo-wop and 50s teen idols. So, needless to say, I didn't see the Baz Luhrmann Elvis movie. And I probably never will. There's a question these days when it comes to making biopic, and it's how real are we going to go? Because these celebrities are people, and they're complex, and they aren't always good people all the time. So how real are we willing to go when we make these biopics? What are we keeping in? What are we keeping out? Or better put, what are we focusing on? Is it whitewashing to only show the good? Priscilla opts to show both the good and the bad, and I think in doing so she creates a more nuanced Elvis. I saw this in the theater with my friend, and I remember being kind of disappointed. I wanted more. I didn't want it to end. I wanted one of the maids to open a goddamn window. This movie is so dimly lit, which really makes it hard for a person like me who likes to focus on the costumes and sets. But the more I thought about it, the more these choices make sense. The story, not the lighting. This is the movie you get when your entire claim to fame is being the wife of Elvis. I think most people stop really caring about Priscilla after she divorced Elvis. She kind of fades from the pop culture lexicon after the 60s. She doesn't really get a story without Elvis. Well, it makes you think, doesn't it? Anyway, that soundtrack was fabulous. Where's the vinyl? And last but not least, Blowout from 1981. A lesser known Brian De Palma flick. It does have a Criterion release, so I guess someone remembered it. Not to be confused with Antonioni's Blowout from 1966, which this movie sort of rips off, but also takes the places the original didn't. Or wouldn't. John Travolta works as a sound effects tech and he records an assassination. That's the plot. John Lithgow plays a hitman who likes to kill prostitutes. Love that for him. I can't tell if Nancy Allen is good or bad in this movie. It might just be the accent. But for whatever reason, it's a pretty good movie. I don't know if it's one of his best, but it's certainly worth the watch, especially if you like looking at John Travolta, which I do. So yeah, those were the movies I watched in January. I'd recommend most of them. Saw some classics, saw some trash. Best costumes go to Evil Under the Sun, with Best Little Whorehouse in Texas coming a very close second. My favorite movie this month was probably Ghost. I always love seeing Whoopi Goldberg on my screen. I think my least favorite was Rebel Without a Cause. I hate to say that about a classic, but I just couldn't get into it. Anyway, let me know in the comments, have you seen any of these movies? What did you think of them? Remember to like and subscribe and all that jazz, and I'll see you later. Bye.